Hello, everyone. Glad to see you all here. Even more than that, I'm glad to see that the streaming worked the way it's supposed to this time. It was annoying last week. But I hope you're all well. And hope if you get a holiday weekend that you have a good one. Begin with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Three bows. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge, being one with the Buddha. I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge, being one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge, being one with the Sangha, in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with the boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. We'll do a 20-minute silent meditation tonight. Setting the timer. Sorry. It's running a little slow for some reason. If you like to mute your sound during meditation so you don't hear my neighbors chopping trees or dogs barking or anything like that, we're going to sit for 20 minutes. We're going to start right now. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and reciting the sutras, hearing the dharma, and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. Let their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for the health and well-being of all those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick and the grieving. We pray for those suffering from violence, for the oppressed, for the imprisoned, and for all refugees. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings springing from the good we have done. Slide a little closer. So, I've been thinking about freedom and independence. And I see the word independence, because I don't know, I saw something about an Independence Day sale or something like that. And I always think when I see that, we really should celebrate Interdependence Day if we're Buddhist rather than Independence Day. The illusion of independence is, is a form of ignorance. You get right down to it. I mean, it's not seeing things as they are. So I thought I would share with you a couple of things from a book by the Dalai Lama, a couple of passages that are kind of relevant to this. And, just talk about this theme a little bit. So this is from, Ocean of Wisdom, Guidelines for Living. And it was published. It's one of the first books by the Dalai Lama I got. The first book I got by the Dalai Lama was almost incomprehensible. It was so technical. It was very difficult to read. I made it through it, and I think I still got it, but boy, it was a tough one. And then he or his publisher or somebody figured out, how he should be communicating with Westerners. But this one I got because it had, I think it was published in 1989. So around the time that I started getting interested in Buddhism again, and seriously, 89. And it had his, I think I got it because it had the text of his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, which is very famous. If you haven't read it, you should look it up. It's online all over the place for free. But anyway, so here's what he says. Liberation cannot be sought from the outside through something else, like someone else giving it to you. When one has achieved liberation by means of removing all afflicted emotions, then no matter what kind of external conditions one meets with, one will not generate any of the afflicted emotions. Thus, one will not newly accumulate any new karma. The cycle has been stopped. So let me unpack that a little bit. So, he says freedom doesn't come from being freed, by some external source. And it's really interesting because in the prison this week, Tuesday, somebody said something about being freer now than they ever were when they were on the outside, or something like that, about basically, freedom not having anything to do with where you are. Now, let's be realistic. There's none of these guys. I think I got 12 now, in our group there at the prison chapel. And it's a good bunch, a good group, really interesting. And it grows one or two people every week lately, which is nice, because they're seeing that, that if they train their minds, they have a better experience of life, which is the topic of my latest podcast that I just put up. It's included the talk that I gave at White Sands Buddhist Center, and I think a couple of you were there. I think were there last time I was at White Sands. Jeff and Ellen, pretty sure they were there. Anyway, he was talking about freedom and it not having anything to do with whether you were in a prison or not, which is in reality they don't want to be there, and I'm sure he doesn't want to be there, but recognizing that freedom has a lot more to do with how you use your mind and you're bound much more by your mental activity than you are by where you are. And so he says, liberation can't be sought from outside. When one has achieved liberation by means of removing all afflicted emotions. Okay, so what does that mean? Afflicted emotions. This is a very interesting term, right? So had the same conversation. It might have been an extension of the same conversation on Tuesday at the prison. Somebody said, being awake then is like being numb to everything, and basically not caring about anything. Which people get that idea sometimes that to be liberated from one's emotions means being emotionless. It's not really like that. It means not being ruled by your emotions. It means recognizing when an emotion, even an unpleasant emotion, is appropriate to a situation or not. And so the example that I used when I was responding to him was, a very famous poem by Issa, Japanese poet, who was a Jodo Shinshu priest, I believe, or monk. And he had experienced some really profound losses. He had lost multiple children. And after the loss of his infant daughter, he wrote, "This dewdrop world is a dewdrop world, and yet. So in other words, he recognized impermanence. He knew that whatever he attached to was ephemeral, that nothing is truly substantial in the sense of it being permanent. It's anything we can rely on, as and that sort of stuff. Things change. Even our own minds change. The way we perceive things, what we what we like one day we're bored with the next, and all of that. So that's part of this existence. This impermanent, this dewdrop world is a dewdrop world. He knew this, and yet he experienced this sadness because of these losses. You wouldn't want to be numb to that, because if you were numb to that, you wouldn't appreciate the joys either. You couldn't experience the joy of life without also being aware of the sadness of life and experiencing it. But that doesn't mean to be ruled by that. So, this orchid behind me, can't see it real well I don't think. It just kind of fades into the background. But if you look at it real close, it's really pretty, really pretty. It's kind of an ivory color. It's got these really interesting sort of patterns in the center. There's technical terms for all that stuff that I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about. Beautiful. Even though, some of the flowers are starting to fall, Flowers don't last forever. They bloom very briefly. But part of what we understand there is that if we want to appreciate a flower, we need to do it now. We need to look at it now and go, oh, enjoy the beauty now, because it's not going to be there soon. So, but, we don't want to just go, oh, well, I'm not going to look at flowers because, they don't last very long. I'm not going to be interested in that. We don't expect them to exist for a long period of time. And so a lot of it has this freedom from the afflicted emotions have to do with being realistic about what it is that we're being attracted to, not necessarily attached to, but attracted to. And so, the mind is attracted to things, and we find things significant and important and meaningful, and that's okay, but we don't need to develop them into afflictions. If I'm going to give a dharma talk at a new place, I've never been there before, and I want to make sure that, I do something good, do something that's going to be significant to people who hear me, so they'll invite me back, or just because I don't get a chance to talk to these people all the time. So I want to say something meaningful. Might get a little nervous when it comes time to talk. That's okay. But I'm not going to develop the affliction of a panic attack, because a little nervousness, is a symptom of wanting to do well. So, and sometimes that carries with it some emotions that we don't identify as being particularly pleasant. It actually would be fairly unhealthy for me to be just completely relaxed and calm, because that could easily become blasé and come across as being not energetic, right? So, emotions are fine. Afflictions, that's a problem. With afflictions now, we can start letting our anger run away with us, letting our depression run away with us. Our sadness can turn into hopelessness. Our worry can turn into anxiety, and so on. So he's saying, if we get that, then we're not going to be bound by our afflicted emotions. Thus, one will not accumulate any new karma. The cycle has been stopped. So he's talking about becoming an arahant, right? He said, that if the view is that as long as we're attached, we're going to keep creating karma that creates attachment. If we do something bad, it leaves a residue on our consciousness that wants to cling. It clings, and so therefore it wants to cling, and the nature of the clinging determines the form. And if we stop all of that, then we stop coming back to the cycle. And he says, if you don't accumulate any new karma, the cycle has been stopped. And that's kind of the way the Buddha talked about, becoming a Buddha. But it's also how if we stop creating new clinging residues in our own hearts, then we don't keep coming back to the same suffering over and over again. Therefore, the attainment or the non-attainment of liberation depends on the removal or the non-removal of the afflicted emotions, the chief of which is ignorance. So I say the thing you got to get rid of is ignorance. Now, you can't just wake up one morning and go, I'm going to stop being ignorant now. It doesn't work that way. I mean, it'd be nice if it did. A bunch of people I'd like to have take that vow to not be ignorant anymore. That's not how it works. He says the process of liberation depends on the removal of the afflicted emotions. That depends on wisdom. Wisdom, in turn, depends on the intention to definitely get out of cyclic existence. Initially, it is very important to develop the intention to leave cyclic existence. So again, he's talking about altogether, I want to become completely enlightened in order to transcend this nonsense of coming back here and living another lifetime of suffering. You can become, now, he's a Mahayana Buddhist, so it's not about becoming an arahant for him. It's about becoming so freed that basically you're free from coming back unless you except that you do it as a vow to help others. But on the day-to-day level, again, if we can develop enough wisdom, if we can see things as they truly are, instead of how we want them to be or expect them to be, or if we accelerate our preferences to want to a need, those kinds of things, then we don't keep bringing ourselves back over and over again to this same stress, the same suffering again and again. And that's on the short-term sense. On the long-term sense, and the Buddhist view, this isn't just for this life. This is not just for this form. This form's only going to last 80, 90, 100 years, and then it's all used up. And then what? Well, this is for beyond that too. What am I going to do with my life that after this life is over is not going to create suffering? It's going to bring goodness into the world. I mean, I think that's one way of looking at it. You take the Bodhisattva vow, to free all beings. Well, you're seeing that your actions transcend just this form. So, Ellen, I'm not sure what you were saying yes to, but I'm glad you agree with me, or I'm glad I was right, whatever it was you were saying yes to. Anyway, and he goes on he's talking about sort of issues beyond immediate Buddhist practice now, and looking at our practice as it manifests in society. And he says, in the sphere of international relations, a sense of greater or shared responsibility is particularly needed. Remember, this was 1989 that this was published. I can't remember when he got the Nobel Prize. It was around that time. This was a little bit after that. It's not needed any less now. That's for damn sure. So he says, in the sphere of international relations, a sense of greater or shared responsibility is particularly needed. Today, when the world is becoming increasingly interdependent, the dangers of irresponsible behavior have dramatically increased. In ancient times, problems were mostly family-sized and were solved at the family level. Unless we realize that now we are part of one big human family, we cannot hope to bring about peace and happiness. One nation's problems can no longer be solved by itself because so much depends on the cooperation of other states. Therefore, it's not only morally wrong, but pragmatically unwise for either individuals or nations to pursue their own happiness, oblivious to the aspiration of others who surround them. The wise course should clearly be based on seeking a compromise out of mutual self-interest. So, he's talking about the world. He was talking about the world at a particular time and place, and there were undoubtedly wars, and the people of Tibet had been, treated rather brutally by the government of China and so on. And he was saying, we can't anymore just look out for just ourselves in our own country. We have to look out for everyone. And on the personal practice level, that still applies. I know I've told this story before, maybe on a Wednesday night. I know I've told it at White Sands. The story about the bamboo acrobats. I'm sorry. It looks okay here on this end. Oh, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, I thought it was right. So this book was published right after that, I guess, or was copyrighted right after that. It was published in 1990. So anyway, I'm sorry I'm cutting in and out, Ellen. It looks okay on my end. Oh, the podcast. So if you go to, if you use Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Pandora, maybe they're having a little Wi-Fi fluctuation over there where they are. But I'm glad that the rest of you are okay. And Ellen, you should be able to watch it later. It shouldn't be an issue. What was I saying? Yeah, I have Spectrum anyway. My podcast. So Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, it's Google Podcasts. I think pretty much all of them. If you look for my name or Adventures in Buddhism, you should find it. If you go to anchor.fm/Morris-Sullivan, you'll find it there for sure. But it's in all the streaming platforms has it. And basically, when White Sands started meeting in person again, I'd been giving talks on Sunday mornings, and so I didn't want to abandon everybody who'd been watching me from here on Sundays. So I just started recording them and putting them up. Figured that was better than nothing. And, it's okay. It's a little time consuming to edit a podcast, but it's kind of fun when I have time to do it. So there's a whole pile of them up there by this point. So enjoy them. Anyway, bamboo acrobats. So, there were these people in India who would do these sort of tricks, acrobat tricks. They'd go out into a crowded plaza or whatever, and they would put on a show, and then people would give them money. And so this acrobat was training his new partner, a young female, apparently. And he said, okay, I'll climb up to the top of the pole, and then you climb up and stand on my shoulders, and then you look after yourself, and I'll look after myself. And we'll be able to do our tricks, and then we'll come back down and we'll make a lot of money. And the new apprentice says, no, that won't work. We'll climb up there, I'll get on your shoulders, and then you look after me and I'll look after you, and we'll be fine. We'll do our tricks, we'll climb down, we'll make a lot of money. And the Buddha said, they're both right. You have to look after yourself, and you have to look after the other person. You can't do it all on your own, and you can't, and you can't do it just by looking after others either. You have to have both. So, in this sort of enlightened self-interest that he's talking about, see, if we start to recognize that there's really no such thing anymore as independence. We're free within certain boundaries to do certain things, but there's always a point where you butt up against something that either you can't do, or it's unethical to do, or that causes harm. And in fact, it's impossible to live without causing some harm. But if you're aware of that, and if you're careful about that, mindful about that, then we can take care of each other while we take care of ourselves as much as possible. And that's what being free would actually look like. We can live in a way that recognizes our interconnectedness to others. And this interdependence, it kind of works on different levels. In a personal practice way, an understanding reality way, we recognize that this has no substance, that this is just a process that's a part of everything else. But when we think about it too in terms of our lives and in society, we realize that our lives impact everything, and everything impacts us. So, there's no, I'm sure I've told you about this. An interesting moment. I was doing a Nikon practice, and I happened to be going down 1792. I entered, Speedway Boulevard, and there was a person that put a sign out in front of his business that said, the government didn't build my business, I built my business. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm sure he put a lot of effort into it, but he's in a shopping center that faced onto a U.S. highway that was built by the U.S. government. long time ago, actually, that particular highway, although it's maintained by the, federal government now, I think, and there's an awful lot of other stuff that happens because of the government, because of cooperation in society, and so on. Somebody picks up his dumpster. There's a road brings cars to his place. All this stuff that has to happen in order for him to be able to build his business. And granted, that's a lot of work. I've built businesses before. It's not easy. But it's a lot easier if you recognize how connected you are to everything else. So anyway, that's kind of what was on my mind this week, what with the 4th of July coming up and Interdependence Day and all of that. So I'm going to be celebrating the day by taking the dog to see fireworks. see how Dee Dee reacts to seeing fireworks. And try to remember at that point that, we're really all in this together, even if we don't see eye to eye sometimes or frequently. And, even if we don't have all the same objectives and all find the same things important, if we all really live according to our highest values, which includes recognizing one another, then, we'll be okay. So anyway, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate your attention. And hope Ellen's Wi-Fi got stable finally. So we will do the great vows. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Dharma gates, delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Friends, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken, take heed, do not squander this life. So thank you all for coming. Sorry about the little goof up there. I was trying to read what people were posting while chanting. It doesn't work. Anyway, thanks for coming. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you again soon.